I really have this passion and this goal to amplify women's voices and give a stage where maybe there hasn't been one in the past. Being a business owner and things like that as a woman, it shows these unique challenges that come up when you face these barriers of, oh, I'm supposed to do this job, I'm supposed to have this time, I'm supposed to be taking care of these things. Where is that place and where are the resources then to meet my own needs? Within a year, I spent $10,000 on myself in a way that felt very selfish. And because of that, I was filled with shame every single time. Every time I had to ask, every time I had to do these next things, I was full of shame.
Welcome, everyone, to the amazing One Moment Podcast Show. We are here with another phenomenal episode and a brilliant young lady, Miss Sharissa, and she is phenomenal. She is, she's just one of a kind. And now I do want to open it up like this. She says that she's an introvert. I don't really think she's an introvert. I think more so deep down on the inside, she's an extrovert that likes to be in seclusion most days and not. That is my current theory about her. and we and we've been talking about a lot of things so far. And she's amazingly comes from Carson City, Nevada. And interesting fact, the movie Con Air with Nicolas Cage features Carson City. It's an interesting fact. So, Miss Sharissa, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for asking me. And thanks for having me on your show, too. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We enjoy having people on our show. We enjoy being able to meet people and get to know people and all of that. So, you were talking about prior to uh, the show about doing a lot with women and not just doing a lot with women, but you're a busy lady. You're a busy lady, but I think it's important also to focus on women's issues and women's rights and anything related to females. So what sparked the interest into doing a women's publishing or focusing in that area with women?
That is such a good question. I think the main reason is that I really have this passion and this goal to amplify women's voices and give a stage where maybe there hasn't been one in the past. And I have experienced personally my own journey through the publishing process and like publishing my own book and facing the barriers that comes with that. And also being a business owner and things like that as a woman, it shows these unique challenges that come up when you face these barriers of, oh, I'm supposed to do this job, I'm supposed to have this time, I'm supposed to be taking care of these things or these people's needs. And where is that time and where is that place and where are the resources then to meet my own needs? And I saw that gap in the world when I was publishing my own book and dealing with the financial burdens that come along with actually the publishing process. So when I published my first book, it was about 10 years ago and it cost about $10,000. All that money came out of my pocket. And it was something that I really didn't have any concept of. I didn't really have any thought behind like how much is it going to cost because I thought at the time that writing a book would be free, right? It doesn't cost any money to write, so why should it cost any money to publish? And that's such a bold-faced lie right in my face because it costs so much money to have something professionally edited, which you wouldn't want to put anything out into the world that isn't professionally edited. It takes money to have something formatted. It takes money to have somebody design your cover. And if it isn't money, it's time and education. So there's elbow grease somewhere, whether that's going to be paying somebody to do that for you, or it's going to be having and learning that thing for yourself, maybe like a YouTube education. I do that all the time and learning those processes. But when it comes to things like specifically a book cover, for example, things like Canva or other free tools that you could definitely make yourself a free cover, they lack the depth and dimension that you would get from like a publishing tool, like an actual like publisher or affinity or something like that, where you can actually create the dimension in the colors so that when you print a book, it has that look and that feel that would sit right next to somebody else's book at Barnes and Noble. And when you do a book by yourself and for free, you're not going to get that. And I learned that the hardest possible way. And at the time, I was in a more traditional housewife type role where I was working, but not the breadwinner in the family. And my primary responsibilities were taking care of my two daughters. And what that equated to when I was writing my book was me having to ask for the money to publish my book. Now, as you remember, I told you I didn't know that it was going to cost any money to publish my book. So when I did have to find that out the hard way, like, oh, I really want to pay for this editor, but it's $2,500. I had to go to my husband at that time, and we really didn't have a good relationship. We were still like maybe 5 years into our marriage, raising young children, very, very challenging, tumultuous time. And asking for that money was a huge, huge thing. That's like our mortgage payment for the month. It would be like groceries for the month. So it felt like I was financially burdening my family to ask for and receive that money for something that felt extremely selfish because it's just my story. And like, what did that mean for me to like even what did it even matter to have it out? And I didn't really have that confidence to say like, oh, I'm going to sell 10,000 copies and I'm going to market myself and I have this huge audience. I really didn't have any perspective around that. So each time these bills came up, first one was editing and it was $2,500. The second one was formatting my book and it was $1,500. The next one was getting my book cover design and that was $900. And then I did go ahead and go with a hybrid publisher. And then that total rounded out to $10,000. So within a year, I spent $10,000 on myself in a way that felt very selfish. And because of that, I was filled with shame every single time. Every time I had to ask, every time I had to do these next things, I was full of shame. And shame, in my opinion, as a human emotion, is probably one of the most uncomfortable ones to feel. And I think that shame is the starting place and the birthplace of cognitive dissonance, to the point where when we feel so full of shame that we will change our belief system, cognitive dissonance, to like become something and believe something else. So for me, that was around my worthiness, around my self worth. So when I was asking for that money and then I was filled with shame, my cognitive dissonance was telling me, you don't deserve this, you shouldn't even be doing this. Why are you even doing these things in the first place? Eventually, what that equated to over the following year was so much shame that by the time the book did come out, I could not talk about it. I could not market it. I could not tell people. I was so depressed from the whole process that when the book finally got out and my story was finally out there for people to read, couldn't tell anyone it was there. It ended up sitting on the shelf for like another 2 years before I was even able to really tell people like I did this thing. So then like add on to that an additional like years of shame of, okay, that self-fulfilling prophecy of I spent this $10,000 selfishly. I didn't deserve it. And then I didn't do anything with the book. It tacked on. It completely tacked on. And it created this kind of like dark night of the soul for me, a beginning place of everything kind of falling apart. And that's kind of where Project Seed Money is born. So you mentioned like I serve women. This is where I serve women. I serve women through Project Seed Money, which is a place where women can come and get resources and confidence and support to find the money for their projects and to find the money to make a book come to fruition. And whether that's tools, resources, education, interviews with professionals in the industry, I do everything I can to help like keep that shame in women to like a smaller amount. Like we already have enough of it. We already struggle to find a platform. We already struggle to ask for permission. I had someone reach out to me last week who wanted to partner with me, and she was like in her head thinking like, why would Sharissa even care about this? And my reaction was so opposite. I immediately was like, yes, I can't wait. Let's do this together. Like, let me buy your book. I'll partner with you. Let me do a post for you. And she was shocked by the like amount of like what I want to like how I want to show up and how I want to support these women. So it's never ending for me in that place. Like I want to do what I can because there's a version of Sharissa 10 years ago that's stuck in a place of pain and shame and not worthy. And if I can work my way through and help these other women, I feel like it's self-serving in a way that it heals me and my shame and my pain that I experienced, because now I'm taking that and I'm turning it into this thing where we like actually do all this to make it so that that doesn't happen for everybody else. And maybe they've already walked that path, maybe they've already experienced some of that, but I would love to alleviate that. I would love to take some of the burden, some of the shame, and just be like really encouraging and really empowering, because I feel like every woman has a story, and everyone want to learn about that, and I want to learn from my peers and from the people around me. So that is what Project Seemingly is, and that's how I serve. And then I do have a publishing house where I do publish the actual books. So that is also another way that I like to serve my community.
I love it. I love it. uh, now I do want to backtrack here. And when you speak of shame, do you feel like that was an emotion that you needed to experience to get you to where you're at today?
I feel like I've experienced shame in so many ways in my life, and I feel like contrasting emotions and like the dichotomy of contrast is necessary for everything. We need to feel sadness to feel happiness. We need to feel pain to feel pleasure. So I feel that the shame brought me to a place of wanting and desiring nothing but freedom, and freedom can look like a lot of things, but for me, it feels like peace in the body. And that's what I crave ultimately, is just to feel like at peace, at ease, or like homeostasis, right? Balance. Not one extreme or the other, but I definitely think it's necessary to experience the full range of human emotions in order to be able to experience anything at all. I mean, I'm often reminded of this in my head, just reminded of this plant that smells like human bodies rotting, like corpses rotting. It's like called the corpse plant, and it only blooms like a certain amount of times per whatever its life cycle. It's like 4 years before it blooms again. And this one museum a couple years ago like featured the flower, and it was like it's blooming. And again, it smells like corpses, rotting bodies. And they showed the video footage of people who were literally standing around the block in lines, never ending lines, to see and smell this specific flower. And I have to wonder, like, why? Why would any human being seek out disgust? And I think that it kind of comes back to this, like, it is a necessary thing for us to experience that wide range of humanness, and even in the feeling of disgust. So yeah, I think totally necessary. Was I grateful for it? No, I hate it, but also necessary. There's so much that I hate. I often feel myself like there's this movie Will Ferrell called Kicking and Screaming, and it's about soccer. But I personally feel like my journey through life has been through kicking and screaming. Like I'm just being dragged, and I'm just like, wait, no, I hate this. Please make it stop. But no, I think necessary.
I love it. I love it. And no, so many people, I think we try to run from our emotions and not reflect in them or even try to understand them. And yet, what I teach people in my practice is our emotions are telling us things. There are approximately 7 universal human emotions, and maybe 8, depending on which theory you follow. It could be up to 120, 160 plus. But we all experience all of these emotions. And so, if they are human and they are natural and we're biologically wired, how come we try to run from them? And this, as you said, that uh, it's a very rough, ill feeling when we feel them, unless it's happiness. And, of course, we want that to last every day. Reality is there's 7 days a week and 365 days, except for leap year. We're going to not be happy 24/7.
No, and why be? Because then you would be missing out on so much of the human experience. And it's necessary. And if we ignore our emotions, I have that school of thought that they collect in the body and turn into disease or dis-ease. And when we don't express or experience ourselves as who we are, know thyself, I feel that that's the most dangerous type of people to be around, because they often project that onto other people. Oh, you feel this, you feel that, without experiencing themselves. So I try to not really hang out with a lot of people that don't experience or have emotional competence or are willing to express their full range of human emotions. Because if you're really just locked into, I can only be happy, you're just going to miss out. There's so much that feels so full. Even grief means that you loved so deeply, and that has to be a gift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think grief is a display or an expression of a life lived well.
Mm.
And to add on to that, as you said, loved deeply. And so, out of curiosity, right, when it comes to women and the publishing and Project Seed, right, how what has been your experience on the average of seeing women come to you, and what is their type of emotional responses in the beginning versus at the end?
Pretty universally across the board, I have just seen a lack of confidence. This feeling of why does my story matter and who will even read it? And I feel like that comes from a long history of just feeling less than as a gender and being treated that way. And like, even from my own family, like, I being a girl in the family meant less, like, attention from my own father because they were like I was less regarded less than as my brothers. So, I feel that, like, it comes from this, like, very early place, and what I'm trying to do in my practices in both places is encourage and support and empower and really show that there is a cheerleader, there is this group of cheerleaders. And even if it's just me at the beginning, I've often found that just giving that attention, that one-on-one, that, "Hey, like, how can I support you? How can tell me about your story." I had someone reach out to me feeling like, "I don't know if I should share this," and she read her memoir to me, like, over Zoom, and I'm, like, sobbing and just feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I hope you share this with the world." And sometimes just getting that tiny bit of validation is all it takes to kind of overcome. The other thing I've found is that there's truly, like, a lack of resources because women women's responsibilities take physical time, more physical time, like, for instance, like, making a meal can take, like, anywhere from 25 to, like, 30, 40, 50 minutes. That is, like, time minutes spent in the kitchen instead of, like, being spent doing, like, writing or doing these projects, and so I find that there is actually a lack of resources, and when we say, "Oh, just get up early," like Stephen King is like, "Oh, write 1 hour a day, every single day, 5 AM, have the same exact practice." That's so, like, reasonable to even request of somebody who has other responsibilities. No, I have to get my children off to school, I have to feed lunches, I have to do these things, I have to walk the dog. So, fitting in those pieces in the schedule, I find that women who come to me with a story and they're ready to share are also lacking, like, actual time, space, and energy to do that, and truly not just like, "Oh, I don't have any time for that," like, but truly. So, it's more than just confidence, it's really about, like, giving the tools and removing the roadblocks, because if we don't know the steps and you have to research and find the steps, where are they taking the actual minutes to research and find those steps? And same thing with the grants. So on the Project Seed Money homepage, there's a bulletin board. I update that every single month. And every month you can come and see, like, what grants are there. And you don't have to actually take your minutes. That's all, like, our only resource, right? As human beings, we have one resource, we have time. And we have to sleep so much of that, which feels like such a waste, but we do have to sleep. And so in order for us to, like, sleep and do the day, like, it actually takes minutes and we have to, like, sit down and do that. So I try to do my best to remove the time piece of it by giving those resources. Like, okay, here is how you write a grant, and here are some sample sections, and here are the actual grants. So now instead of taking like 3, 4, 5 hours out of their day or their week, it's now this 5, 10, 15 minute thing. And we can find that. We can fit that in because I'm fitting it in. So I know that it's possible.
Wow. And you are right. I think last time I looked at the research, I think humans sleep a third of their life away.
What a
Wow.
waste.
Yeah. And we are, and so if you factor in approximately 8 hours a day, I think is what they say is average. Uh, and this is again just average. 8 hours a day, that leaves what, 16 hours left or whatever, whatever that time frame is for 24. So whatever it is, I don't even remember right off the top of my head, but when you factor that in, 16 hours a day, right? Um, y- are you working that day? If so, then that's it. 12, an 8 hour day, unless you're working a 12-hour shift. And so that leaves you only with the couple of hours before you have to go to sleep, or a few hours before you have to go to sleep. So yeah, no, I absolutely get it. Like, time is valuable.
Yeah, and you have to factor in laundry and preparing meals and grocery shopping and
Right.
mailing the bills or whatever, and that takes all the time. And so what I noticed, well, for myself, I noticed this, right? And I made it a career for myself to then go ahead and to remove all that time block. Like, okay, now you don't have to go and look for the grants. I already put them there for you. Now you don't have to go and, like, fill out a grant application. I created sample sections for you. Like, plug in your name, plug in your budget numbers. I made you a sample budget. So it's not a matter of having to find the time anymore. It really, Project Seed Money is really trying to be there to remove all these blocks. So it really is just right.
Yeah. Well, and it goes to show that there are resources and support if you utilize them too. Absolutely. So what do you feel like is the major uh I don't know what word I want to use, but the major reason, I guess it fits, that women feel so lost in the beginning, they or lack that confidence in the beginning of this journey?
Part of it has to do with the gatekeeping, I think. Part of it has to do with the actual what is the step by step once the book is written. And a lot of that is kind of hidden behind these barriers. So if you want to know what the next step is, you might end up having to go to a hybrid publisher or a publishing assistant company. Those types of companies, I'm a hybrid publisher, so I understand what that looks like. It's money, it's 10 grand, it's minimum 10 grand. I had a client, she writes cookbooks. She went to a San Francisco hybrid publisher. They quoted her $60,000 to publish $60,000 to publish the cookbook. And that's like with images and with all the things. Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful hardback book, but when will she ever recoup that cost? Because I mean, that's an annual salary. So I don't even know how people are doing things like that. And in order to get her questions answered, that's how she felt like she had to do it. She had to like go through this process. So I think that the biggest thing is that they just don't know the steps. And when you have an education, when you get empowered through education, I know the steps, you no longer feel that sense of like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So on the website, again, back on the resources page, there's literally a guideline like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, write the book, and then get an ISBN number. And the ISBN number link, if you are in the United States, is right there on the website. And if you're in Canada, it's free and that's on the website. And if you're in Australia, it's also free and that's on the website. So there's all these step by step things that I feel like people get kind of underwater, feeling like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And that's true. I felt the same exact way. And I thought that I had to go to somebody to tell me what those answers were. And I just started researching. I didn't have the money to have someone tell me. So I just research. And like I said before, like my master's degree is in research. So like this is something I'm very comfortable with, something I enjoy doing. And so I'm trying to help remove that part of it. But what I'm finding is that it's a lack of confidence because they just don't know the steps and they can't find the steps because they're behind barriers. And in order to get to those steps, they have to pay money. And if they don't have the money, they're not getting their questions answered and their confidence is staying the same. And you could see how that loop would keep somebody in a place of not feeling like they could keep going, not feeling like they could do it or publish their project.
Wow. That is the loop de loop that you were just describing reminds me of the cycle of domestic violence, where it's one thing right after another, right? But it's the same loop, it's the same experiences all over again. And it only stops whenever we make the decision to make it stop. And so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but you have to have awareness. You can't even know that you're in the cycle if you're not aware that you're in the cycle. And that's like in my opinion, the hardest part because once you see like, oh, this person, like I come from a long history of abuse. Oh, this person is abusing me. I'm finally going to cut them out of my life. And that took so much energy and so much time. And it was like literally my mother. So I had to like pull myself out of almost every single family member, because if you're taking out the top, you're going to lose all of those things as well. But I didn't recognize the cycle until like way later in my life, like early 30s. And then like, wow, I'm being manipulated. I'm being abused. Um, being pushed around in all these ways, but I wasn't recognizing the cycle even in therapy. So like it takes awareness to see that, to get off the wheel. And so I'm like trying to get in everyone's face online, on Instagram, whatever. You're going to see my face every single day. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Call me. You think you can't do it? I'll do it.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. I love that you said that. It is about having that awareness, first and foremost. And there's something that I think many people fail to have until it's potentially too late. And I say potentially because my hope is that people get awareness early, right? And so now I do have to ask, okay, you keep saying 10 grand. to publish. All right. My first question is it still 10 grand? And number two is, it, when I think about publishing, I think about it like a mechanic shop where women can be taken advantage of going into a mechanic shop, right? Because they don't know that old stigma, right? They don't know. And so does do things like that happen with women in the publishing industry? So those are my two questions.
Yes, and yes. Okay, so there's something in the publishing industry called a vanity press. And vanity presses will so there's multiple routes that you can take when you publish a book. You can self-publish, meaning you do it all by yourself. And in that case, yes, it is still going to cost $10,000, if not more. It depends on the type of editing that you do. You can do developmental editing, which is like right at the very beginning, and that can cost, like, depending on how long you work with somebody, it's going to be like a coaching fee almost. They're going to work with you until your manuscript is done. Then you're going to have something called line editing, and then you're going to have proofreading. Those are three separate steps. Not everybody pays for all of that. Each one of those steps, depending on your manuscript, probably minimum $2,000, $3,000 minimum. And the proofreading comes at the very end, and that's when your book is in a book form. And then you're going to send that book to your editor, and they're going to make sure everything looks really good and really clean. Okay. Self publishing, you still have to pay for all of those steps, and that's $2,000, $3,000. Then formatting, again, depending on how big your book is, and if it's fantasy, is it going to have a bunch of images in it? Is it going to have these like cute little characters on the chapter titles? Are you going to have a map? All of that is additional expenses, and the formatter is going to be a little over that 1,000 mark up to the next 1,000 mark. Then you're going to have you're going to have your book cover designed, and then you're going to have to pay somebody to publish it, and you're going to have to buy an ISBN number, and you're going to have to market it. That right there, that little nugget, minimum $10,000. Minimum. It's not right all at once. If you're paying a publishing house, you pay that all at once. But if you're doing it by yourself, you can kind of split it up. So that's self-publishing. You still have to follow those steps no matter what. There are traditional publishers that you go through finding an agency, you get somebody to represent you, they shop that, they bring that book to the traditional publisher. You might get something called an advance. This is what people like. Oh, I'm going to get my book, I'm going to get paid to write my book. An advance is money that you can use and spend while you are writing your book. Once you publish the book, that company recoups that money through your sales. You do not get any royalties money until that money is paid back. And you don't get any say on how much they spend on your marketing. So if you go, maybe they give you a $50,000 advance, and they give you like book launch, and they pay for all these books to be printed, and they send you on a book tour. You're now at like maybe $75,000. You owe them that money. If you don't make it back in a certain amount of time, they also have the ability to drop your book and make you pay that money back. So there's a risk involved with traditional publishing. They also don't market you after the first couple of months. You still have to do all of your own marketing. So just getting their name on your book, and they take 90% of your royalties. That's standard across the board. They're going to take 90%. So even once you recoup that 75, whatever thousands of dollars back, you're only going to get 10% of your book for the rest of your life. Hybrid publishers, on the other hand, they ask you to pay upfront, and they say, hey, you pay for whatever it costs to publish your book. And then the minute you start earning royalties, we will pay you. And the royalty split from a hybrid publisher is typically a lot higher. So you might get 30% of your royalties. And my publishing house, you get 50% of your royalties. So it's like a lot higher percentage of royalties, and you pay that upfront fee so that you don't owe the publisher any money for the work that was done on the book. The last one, the one that I feel like is most likely to take advantage of people, is called a vanity press, which is what I mentioned at the start. And a vanity press will take your book and your money without ever meeting you or reading your book. So it's a pay for a service. So you're finding them online. They say, of course, we'll take your manuscript. We'll put our name on it. It's $10 to $15 to $60,000 in San Francisco. And you pay all that money up front. They publish your book. And oftentimes in that contract, they will charge you for an additional 100 printed books. And that is what they anticipate you selling, because an average life of a book, normal people, regular people who write books, sell 250 books in the lifetime of the book. That will be like the max. 250. So if you do the math on how much what you actually get for a book, so like my book is $17. It costs $8 to print. Amazon takes 40%. I make $3 per book that I sell on Amazon. So if I'm going to sell 250 books at $3 each, I've not even made $1,000, and it took $10,000 to print it. So you can kind of do the math on that when it comes to your own book and see how easily it is to be taken advantage of in this industry.
Wow. And my assumption is, especially with women, if you factor in the mechanic analogy, the chances of a woman being taken advantage of is significantly higher.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like, say you're coming to somebody with lack of confidence. I don't feel like confident in who I am, but I'm going to go to you and I'm going to say, okay, I want to publish this book. And they say, oh, of course I can do it. I'm going to do all these things for you. It's very easy to fall into the trap, almost like narcissism. Like it's almost easy to like fall into that, like the love bombing, right? Of like, oh, of course we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And then it drops off the second you get that 100 books because they're like, we made our money. They got the vanity press check and they sold as many books as they imagine that you're going to sell 100.
Wow. And that is so sad. That is so sad. So my question to you is then, because you run Project Seed, which is a publishing company focused on helping women, in what ways do you help them to gain, besides the resource there, what ways do you help them to gain the confidence, knowledge, the self-esteem, the self-respect, having that healthy communication with oneself?
Mm. Oh, that's such a good question and kind of multifaceted because, in a way, I can't do that for anybody. Because actually, in order to build your confidence, you have to do that yourself. Confidence comes from taking action in the place of fear. When I am feeling scared and I take action and I am brave, I build confidence at the other side of it. Confidence is a after effect of taking action. So I can't actually give anyone confidence. I can help encourage bravery, which I do try to do. One way that I do that is on the Project Seed Money podcast. I interview female authors, and my interview questions are, while you were writing, did you face self doubt? Always the answer is yes. And they tell me how they face their self doubt. And then my second question to them is, okay, well, you still published. So how did you overcome it? And usually they say something like community or the story was so big no matter what I had to do it, but I was still so scared and I still took action. And then I ask after the fact, after you published your book, did you face vulnerability? Were you scared people would come after you, backlash? Every single one of them says yes. Now, how does that encourage women to write? It shows you that no matter what, you're going to be walking with fear. It doesn't go away. It gets bigger. It gets harder. It gets scarier. It gets darker. It's like Luke Skywalker asking Yoda, who am I going to meet in the cave? And Yoda says, who? You. And it'll be the hardest thing you ever do. So no, I can't build confidence, but I can give tools to face your fear. I can show you that no matter what you do, you'll be scared. And at the other end of it, when you are brave and you come out the other side of it, you have confidence because confidence is something that you earned. The other thing that I do is I have a directory on the site, and the directory features women who I have interviewed that own their own professional businesses, including editing, illustrating, audiobook production. Each one of those women I have interviewed personally. They are on the channel, and the link to watch that interview is in the directory right alongside them. So you can go and watch the process. I ask those women the questions. What is the onboarding process like? What are the questions that you as an author should come to them with? And how long does it take? If I want to produce an audiobook, how early should I check in if I want every bit of formatting to be done on the same day? If I want my ebook, my print book, and my audiobook to come out on the same day, how do I do that? And then I ask, what are the red flags in that industry? If someone answers me a certain way, when do I run? And that, I hope, will give people the courage to reach out to the people in that directory because those are the women that are supporting specifically the mission that Project Seed Money has founded and say, we support women. We want to see the next person come up. And the idea behind it is when I reach the top of the mountain, I'm going to turn back and I'm going to bring as many people up to the top of the mountain as I possibly can. And that's my vision for Project Seed Money. And when I meet people that match that vision, I bring them in, I add them to the directory. So you don't even have to question it. You want a publisher? Great. I have 5 listed in the directory. You want an editor? Awesome. I have one that does every single genre. I feel like Ariel, right? Like, you want a thingamabob? I got 20. They're there. And you don't have to do the work because I've done it for you. And I interviewed them. And I interviewed them about their onboarding process. And I know how much it costs and how long it takes. And I know where to find their service agreements. And those things demystify the process. So now you're not questioning, am I going to get taken advantage of? Here's their service agreement, black and white. I know exactly what it's going to cost. Some of my interviewees even said the exact cost. It costs 5 cents per finished minute, and this is what it'll be at the total at the end when you do this. And so there's not even this question. And if you go there and you're listening to this and you think, okay, well, I don't necessarily want to work with that specific person, but I'm going to take those questions to this other person. And I've been doing that myself. When I learned about like PR, I interviewed some PR people and I learned the questions. And then I went and interviewed PR people for myself. And I took that information and I was able to find the people that fit my needs and answered the way that I wanted them to answer, the questions that I wanted to ask. And if there was a red flag, right, I just turned and walked the other way. So I hope that even though I can't give confidence, I can't take your karma for you, I can't learn for you, I can't grow for you, I hope to show that we still survive it on the other side and you come out with confidence even when you're in the midst of hell, in the messy middle, walking through literally Dante's Inferno, and you're just like trying to get out to the other side of it, and you make it. You do make it. And that's what these women in these interviews are showing, is that yeah, it's hard and yeah, it's scary, and you still do it anyways because it's worth it.
Wow. Wow. I'm just baffled and astounded at the whole experience. Now, I'm not a publisher by any means. I don't have a book or anything, but that's, to me, just thinking about it is emotionally overwhelming, right? Wow. So I have to ask it. Okay. I have to, because we talk about success and we talk about failures in life, and I am of the belief that, and I can't speak for women because that's a culture in and of itself. And then you also have cultures within the women, you know, group itself. Um, what does It's going to be a hard question, okay? And what I mean by that is not to ask it, but it's just a very hard question. The content is very hard. What does failure look like for women in the industry?
Giving up. Plain and simple. Full stop. Giving up. If you give up, you fail. There's this meme that went around a couple weeks ago that was like, if you knew that what it would take to succeed is 1,000 more failures, how quickly would you do them? And for me, I've failed so many times. I fail all the time. I fail every single day. When I first started printing my anthology, I wanted it to be this like editorial that came off the shelves. And then I found out that I couldn't do that as a publisher. I couldn't even do it. I failed. And then I failed so many times. And now I have 4 of these annual anthologies and I'm going on 4 years. And now we've supported over like 130 women in these publications. And that's what my failure looks like. That's what failure looks like to me, is I just continue and continue and continue. And I'm failing up. Like, I'm still learning. Failure is still learning. Really, truly, if you are looking at, oh, I'm failing, it's not true unless you give up, unless you stop. And I don't intend to. And I hope that others won't as well. And especially if you have a story calling on your heart, there's so much support out there now, not just with Project Seemingly, with other companies as well. But I think that truly failure is part of the process. Failure is part of your 10,000 hours. Nothing becomes easy until you've done it so many times, right? It's like the rat in a maze. Like you are going to do something so much that it like lights up your brain or steals all your energy until the point that it takes no effort and no energy at all and is habit. So really, failure is just giving up.
And that reminds me of what Thomas Edison said. I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
That's so true and so good because it really can take that. It can take that to be successful, and it really depends on how we define success true too. Like for myself, I define success as the people in my life feeling loved by me, feeling at peace in my presence, feeling just better for my being there. And if I've done that, then I've succeeded. And other than that, I would have failed. And so that's really the only place that I care about failures in my relationships and the people that I love. And I just want to feel loved by me. And if that isn't true, then I've failed. But everything else is just learning.
And you remind me of my one of my last clinical supervisors. His name is Scott, and he wouldn't mind me using this name. And one of the things that he always said when I first became a clinical supervisor in the substance use field, he always said, whenever he told me to go do something, I'm like, all right, Scott, whatever, I'm gonna go take care of it. I'd screw it up wholeheartedly. I mean, I'd screw the whole process up. He'd have to come in here and redo it and refix it and behind me. He'd be talking trash to me the whole time, right? And but at the end of everything, he would be like, all right, son, you got about another 15,672 mistakes before you catch up to me. Good job. Keep it up. And I'm like, Scott, like, I'm not supposed to be making these mistakes. Yeah, you are. You're human and you are supposed to have this experience. You're supposed to screw it up. You're supposed to grow. And he was one of those that taught me a lot about existentialism that got me into a personal and professional point in life where let me go through this experience and learn from the experience in and of itself.
Yeah. And just being willing to try and just being willing to continue to show up and continue to put yourself out there, there cannot be failure there. Truly.
Right, right. Because it goes back to perception. Am I looking at it from a very negative perspective? Like, oh, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'll never be good enough. And rather than having those negative self messages, I like to sit back and ask myself instead, what is this telling me? What am I taking from this? Okay, why am I, or how come I am experiencing this? I never asked a why question because it's the harshest question you can always ask, right? And if you don't, hey, if anybody doesn't believe me, this is my challenge to anybody, including you, right? Go back to when you were 3, 4 years old and think about those times where your mom, your dad, or whoever would just simply ask you, why did you do this? You shut down emotionally and mentally, right? And so I never asked a why question because it is literally the harshest question to ask.
Yeah.
And so, how come I'm feeling this? How come I'm experiencing this? What are some things I can take away? And I think that changes the the level of motivation, that changes the self-esteem, that changes the self-confidence, that changes like literally everything, even if it's a financial mistake, regardless of.
I totally agree because we just absolutely need to have that grace with ourselves and being able to learn and being able to keep ourselves open to that and just kind of bringing it back, like asking ourselves a why question is the way that we get off the wheel. It's literally the only way we get off the circle. And it's very self-aware of you, Kevin, to continue to ask yourself why, because really, if we don't, then we never get to the bottom of it. We never get to learn, we never get to grow, we never get to get off the freaking wheel. And that's the point. If you don't want to live the exact same 6 years every 6 years for the rest of your life, then I would definitely suggest asking those why questions and then developing your values from there, like developing like how you want to live. And for me, finding what my values were and living by my values has been like the most important, most impactful thing because I now live by that set of standard in every single situation that I'm in.
I love it. And I think it goes back to redefining what I typically call is self-imposed limitations. I think it's really about redefining that. And what I try to help patients understand is who says that I have to do this or I must do this? Who says that these are certain things that, we have to do in life, right? Like, not out. we're getting outside of, yes, there's a speed limit sign. I know I can't do over 55 or 60, right? Like that's not a self-imposed limitation, right? That's what the state or the government says that I can only travel at. But when it comes to, oh, I shouldn't do this. Well, that should is a rule we give ourselves that we learn from people in our immediate environment. Women shouldn't do this. Women should only do this, or you shouldn't be feeling. You shouldn't, uh, express yourself. It's not ladylike, or hey, men don't talk about their feelings, and so we learn these uh, false rules at such a young age, and including today, going throughout life. And I can see how that would impact somebody's self-confidence, especially doing something they've never done.
But also I find that it's like a form of, like, gaslighting yourself, like, saying to yourself, like, "I can't do this," or, like, someone said I couldn't do this, or, like, women should or shouldn't do. I feel like that's like gaslighting, but it's only in our own head, which is so crazy because it's like, wow, then you, like, are abusing yourself, and it also comes down to, like, abandonment, like, abandoning yourself. Like, if you are telling it, like, "Oh, I should do this, I should do that," then you're going against your own natural inclination. In my opinion, that's, like, self-abandonment, and then when we say, like, "Oh, it's because of this," that becomes, like, the gaslighting, because then it's, like, going against your own natural intuition, and I think that the system that we're all kind of raised into, go to school, spend this time, do these things at this time of day, eat lunch at this time of day, that has become this, like, thing that we try to like rule by, but it's goes against all of our natural inclination. It's especially for women because women are ruled by a 28-day cycle, but we live in a universe that's ruled by a 24-hour cycle. And so it goes against women's nature just to even exist in society. So when we say things like, "Oh, I should be able to go to work at 9 a.m." Well, like, maybe 1 week out of the month, but not every week out of the month when the energy is different. And so when we're putting those limitations or rules on ourselves, it kind of feels like abandoning yourself in order to subscribe, and gaslighting in order to subscribe.
Goes back to what Viktor Frankl said and a lot of other existentialists said. Um, Authenticity. I have to be authentic with self. I have to live life authentically. I have to be true to myself. I've always help patients understand that, I don't have to be honest with people at all. I can lie my butt off to everybody. The only person I have to be honest to is myself. Right. As a result of that, then I'm gonna be honest with people in my social setting or in my surroundings. I don't have to know how to communicate with you. I have to learn and know how to communicate with self. As a result, I'll be able to have a genuine conversation with you and everyone else around me, right? So it
Absolutely.
goes back, it starts with the self.
Yes, know thyself. It's my credo. I just continually tell myself, "Know thyself, and to thine own self be true."
Right, right. Absolutely. So how many women come to you, and it's going to sound like a very therapeutic clinical question, but it's not. I promise you it's not. How many women come to you broken?
Mm. I hate to devalue the growth that women have made by the time that they get to me, and so I wouldn't wanna say broken, because I would feel that I was putting something on them and a label on them. Whereas when I feel they've gotten the confidence enough to come to me, they're healing, and all of them.
I could see that. I can see w what the reason you would change that up. It's interesting. That might be where I need to change my own vocabulary a little bit, did I'm just saying.
I love to look at it from the perspective that we are growing, that we are learning, and that we always have the opportunity to be better than we were the day before. And if someone has already gotten the confidence and the courage to reach out to me, they are strong and so much stronger than they've given themselves credit for. And I do try to remind them of that the second that they get on the phone with me. You've already done the hardest thing and you've already taken that first step. And so, yeah, healing all the way.
I love it. I love it. Now, I must ask, okay? we've been talking about women and going through some of their mentality and some of the experiences that they might or might not have throughout this process, and some of the mental health and emotional aspects of it. Do you work with guys, or is it straight women?
I've had a couple of requests in the recent couple of weeks, like men that have been getting in my inbox about me interviewing them on the podcast, and I feel like I am like cutting off half of the population and saying like, no, I don't support you. I have started recently saying, instead of like hello female authors, I say like hello authors, because I feel like I could support everybody. When it comes to the podcast, I am going to specifically stick to women. The reason for that is because I want to be a platform and a safe place for women to come specifically. And I think if I open that up to men, then I'm changing the dynamic of things. And that is really what this platform is for. And I want to amplify women's voices. And so it's not that I won't. And I do have clients that I am helping with like grant applications. Like I am helping a man next week review his grant application and go over what types of grants are appropriate for his project. So I have no qualms about helping, and I do publish men through my 5-2 Press publishing house. But when it comes to Project Seed Money, the interviews and the directory are strictly all people who identify as female, because I want to give that platform. And I will still help men, like I said, with the like with the process of doing the applications and the grants. And I do post grants that are gender neutral. So it's not like you can't get all of the resources. However, my resources page is directed at women. So it is going to have female names in places, and that is by design, but not to lock men out, but to give a platform for women.
I love it. Yeah, it's all about having that specific platform. For far too long, women and minority folks who identify, or people who identify as minority, African American, Native American or Native people. Apologies. Um, I keep forgetting that Native Americans are no longer Native Americans; they're actually Native people. That's the new term now. Uh, Hispanics used to. I know with the Hispanic culture too, and especially here in the U.S., there's also a push to call them Native people because they're not Native Americans and they're not Hispanics, but they're Native people because they were here way before the Europeans. So I'm gonna have to keep working on my vocabulary and keep improving all of these changes. But no, you are right. Having a platform that is safe, because for far too long people were not represented, and I love that drive, behind that, because and that kind of really goes back to one of our mission here on the One Moment podcast, right? Because mental health, substance use, suicide awareness, like these are topics, taboo topics. Like you just don't talk about it. And I mean, if you look at any, you know, from my experience with women, too often than not, they're growing up in these households and they're saying, "Oh, well, that's not ladylike," or "You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to think this way." "Oh, women don't cry out in public," or what have you. And it's like, you're really shutting down emotions here. You're shutting down the emotional development of human beings. And so that's one of the reasons why we started this, is because it's a safe place. Like we want people to listen and know that, hey, we support everyone regardless of, right? Like so your mission and our mission seems to be, I guess you could say, similar.
Definitely in alignment. And when your opportunity came into my inbox, I watched several of your episodes to see if our missions were in alignment, because, like we said in the beginning, time is our only resource. And so I don't say yes to every opportunity because they're not always opportunities for me. And I don't like to take my time in places that my values aren't in alignment. So I did pick specifically to come and talk to you today, Kevin, because I felt that your mission and your values were in alignment with my own, and it would be not a waste of my time, but definitely adding value.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I am ecstatic that we were able to talk about women's issues and women's rights and women's experiences with this. What do you feel like is or are some of the next steps in the industry that women or that needs to be, you know, what's that gap or some of the next steps that need to be bridged with or for women?
I would love to see more women professionals in the industry, more women publishers, more women editors, more women doing these like professional type things. Especially once you get into the writing world and once you start writing a book, there's a lot of places that women can show up and be this role. And women have that creative energy that, like you said kind of earlier, like we it was stifled, right? That's not ladylike, your emotions, right? There's even books like Wash Your Face or like Fix Your Face. So we're presenting something different than what is actually going on the inside, which again is like self-abandonment. So I would love to see more professionals in the industry. If you are a woman who's writing, like look into the industry and see where there are gaps. There are needs for illustrators and audiobook narrators and things like that. So once you get a feel for the industry, I would love to see more women getting in that professional setting, more women then going back and supporting and then come to Project Seed Money so I can add you to the directory.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. Wow. And so what what do you think it's going to take or it is needed to accomplish that? Because those are huge goals, and I support, of course, 100%. I support more women into various industries that has been far so long overpopulated with men. And I support also the same thing with men into women industry. And I mean, I've worked with several male nurses, and the nursing field used to be very overpopulated with women, and the medical provider was overpopulated with males. And so we're seeing this huge in the last several years, several couple of decades, maybe we've seen this huge gender shift or culture shift with women getting doctorates now and males going into nursing school and in the nursing field. So what do you feel like is needed to help kind of, you know, accomplish that push for more women in the field?
Ultimately, I think it's gonna come down to a diffusion of responsibility or, like, allowing, partnership to kinda take over, so when we're not just expecting the women in the household to do these, like, what I mentioned earlier, like, these time requirements, things like doing the laundry, the dishes, the cleaning, the chores, the maintenance things of the household. When we see, like, accountability and partnership, and when we see, like, oh, there's equal responsibility in the home and equal responsibility outside of the home, or even like even if it is slightly out of balance, that support in the home, like, oh, I don't have to do like make dinner, I don't have to do the laundry, I don't have to take these things to do my that take my time. I'm able to take that time and put it out into the world. And women are very powerful creators. Like there's no shortage of energy when you get to put that energy out into the world. I think that for the most part we direct our energy kind of inward, to the family unit. And I think if there was a little bit more accountability and a little bit more diffusion of responsibility, and then stepping up in partnership, I think that we would see naturally an increase of women in these more professional settings because the time responsibility, like literal physical minutes, would be freed up. So I think it is kind of a lofty goal, like you mentioned, like it is this kind of like future thing. But I definitely think that in order for us to enter into those professional settings, we actually need like minutes, physical minutes. And in order for that to happen, there has to be some accountability and diffusion of responsibility in the household.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. That and I have to say, for the history of the One Moment podcast, I think this is our first ever female focused show. So right, right. Absolutely. I love it. Wow.
Happy, happy to be the one.
Well, all right. So, last couple of questions here, okay? And then, and so we can start wrapping up. Um, if anybody wants to have you on their podcast, or maybe have you do a speaking engagement, or maybe if somebody wants to reach out for additional support, even publishing, what are some ways that they can contact you?
I think probably the easiest way is just go to any one of the websites. Like you can go to my name, sharissabradley.com. You can type in Sharissa at 52 Press or Sharissa at Project Seed Money. Any of those places are going to get you. Also on my website, there's like a contact form, or you can just send me an email, 52press at gmail.com. So there's lots of ways. I mean, really, truly, if you want to get a hold of me, there's going to be no shortage of ways. But I think definitely go to any of the websites, click on any of those contact buttons, email me directly, find me on social media, send me a DM for sure. I spend a lot of time on Instagram too.
All right. And what is one thing you hope that people can take away from this?
I hope that you recognize fear is something that we carry and that we walk with, and that confidence is something that we earn when we get to the other side. So if there's one thing I could say, it's just that if you're experiencing fear, it's okay. You'll get stronger, you'll get braver, and you have to just keep walking because the only way out is through.
Wow. And what is your call to action?
Check out Project Seed Money. Please come and check out the website and the resources and the directory. If you're struggling at all as a female author, please come to the masterclass. There's one in January. It's free. We teach about how to apply for grants, where to find grants. So you can see all of that stuff on the Project Seed Money website. So if you're needing support, needing financial resources, or just needing the step-by-step guide, go check out that site. That is my all and everything I've been giving to everything. So thank you.
Miss Sharissa, been an absolute privilege and honor having you on. Thank you for that. And folks, that wraps up today's show on the One Moment podcast, where we continue to break stigmas and break down barriers as it relates to mental health, substance use, suicide prevention, anything related to healthcare and wellness is what we're here for. So stay tuned until next time.